Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, c'est moi. Did I hear, excuse me. Yeah, you can tell it's your host, Lynn Cullen. Susan?
Yes.
Oh, hoping you sounded a little better.
I don't?
No, I'm hoping you sound better than I.
Well, so far I do. I'll take my turn at hacking in a while.
Okay, all right. I'm just all stuffed up all the time. God. Oh,
it's just morning. Aren't you? I'm just that way every morning. That's how I awaken.
Yeah, but I'm all the... No, it lasts all day. I never quite get rid of it. So I don't know. Nobody wants to hear this. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Susan turned 70 years old on Saturday, and was surprised by a video that her son had put together, but was the result of a lot of family and friends sending in little videos of their own. And I saw it, and Susan and I were talking about it last night. It's a wonderful thing to have. Sort of like being at your own funeral.
Right. Well, that is what it's like, because I'm not in the video, which makes it easier to watch in some ways and harder to watch in others, because it's very difficult to sit around and listen to people say nice things about you. You know, I mean, it's not easy. I don't know why, but I mean, the first shot came up and I just burst into tears.
Well, I wonder if that's a universal thing, that people have trouble taking in people saying nice things to them. Or is that just... Yeah,
I don't know. So I am a natural deflector of compliments, and people yell at me for it. You know, I have a very hard time simply saying thank you, which is all one has to say, and then move on. You know,
I know. But me too.
It's just, but anyway, yes, it was lovely. It was lovely and very sweet of all of you. Thank you.
Well, it was nice to have the opportunity.
Even if some of my friends who really didn't know everything about me now know everything about me if they watch it.
Yeah, there are a few things in there that Susan was thinking, what the heck did you bring that up for? But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I lived long enough to be able to just laugh about everything I did wrong and say, well, big deal, I grew up.
Exactly. Exactly. What a boring person a person would be if they were, you know, always did the right thing. I mean, God, there is no such person, is there?
I hope not. Well, they aren't any friends of mine.
No. I don't know any of them either. So I'm avoiding talking about news-related stuff just because I am not enjoying for months now reading a newspaper, which I used to enjoy, even when the news was not necessarily good. I enjoyed it, and now I can't even find. There's
very little that draws one in, and once it's first of all, it always seems to be the same article 16 different times.
Yeah,
I mean, it's either about COVID.
Yeah.
Or it's mostly about COVID. It's mostly about
COVID. Well, now it is again because of the nincompoops out there. Yeah.
And everybody is now, you know, and why are we, please tell me, why are we supposed to be grateful that the previously recalcitrant are now running off to get their vaccinations and pretending like they meant to do it all along? They were just waiting to make sure it was safe. This seems to be the right time to do it. Yes, now that you've caused a fourth wave, this would seem to be the right time to do it.
Yeah, but you don't want to. I mean, once they
I don't want them not to do it. I don't want them not to do it, but there are consequences to the recalcitrance, and it's just like a forest fire. If there's enough dry timber available, then it'll rage on. I do not understand people insisting on being the dry timber. Well, people are idiots. I don't know what to say. I mean, I got there are just people who refuse to take in information. I don't know how you want to live a life like that. You know, I don't get it. And I think I don't want to trouble my little head anymore. No, trying but to you know, I think about people. You know, I was talking to someone the other day about who was, you know, talking about how stupid it was not to wear a helmet when on a motorcycle. And, you know, and I expect that they're thinking about being on a little putt-putt and going 25 miles an hour, you know, around. And I always bring up the example of our brother, who I think argues quite rationally that a helmet would not help him, if it helped him survive what would happen to his body in an accident at the speed he would be going should he have the accident. He wouldn't want it to succeed. If he's going to have an accident that high a speed, he would just as soon die. Thank you. That's the rational choice. He accepts the consequences. He's not denying the consequences.
It's easy though for him to say that before
he kills himself. Well, so far for 75 years he hasn't. The worst that's happened is he's dropped the damn thing on his ankle and broken it.
Oh, he's had some accidents though. Yeah, but that have not killed him, obviously. I don't know. I think we're generally not very good at assessing risk because we go with sort of we know we're not because of how we don't have any problem getting in a car when that's probably
I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a problem with assessing risk. It's a decision about how much risk to take, and in some cases, it's simply just ignoring the risk that you know is there. I mean, you're just going, yeah, well, okay, never mind. You know, which is how I think a lot of people feel about going to the doctor. You know, you just ignore the risk. Wait a minute.
You mean they don't go to the doctor?
They don't go to the doctor, right?
Oh, because they just Well, right, but that falls into ignorance is bliss. Don't you think a lot of people think ignorance?
Yeah, absolutely,
and it is on occasion.
Yeah.
The blissfulness of being an idiot. Oy, what are we talking about today? Let's you said everything's virus related. I do have God, what is
Nice. It would be complete if you would just sort of spit whatever that was out and we could hear it.
Shut up. No, and I didn't. I made a point of not having it be. It's a very dry thing I just did. That's dry. I don't want to be that disgusting. Anyway, vaccine news. We just have to go there for a little bit. Did you hear about the Catholic school in Michigan?
No, this sounds like a bad joke. No. Tell me about the Catholic school in Michigan.
In Michigan. Well, it's in Lansing, and it's Resurrection School. They are suing the state of Michigan, saying that being told that they have to wear face masks prevents their students from seeing the image of God.
What? What? Do you have to mask? Do you have to mask?
You went to law school. Are you saying you don't understand their argument? Here, I'll give you a verbatim here quote from their complaint. Because God created us in
because we're all made in His image.
We are masking that image. You're masking God by covering.
Well, they have to make a religious argument to have a leg to stand on. It has to be
Well, that's right, and that's right, Susan. They say it's therefore the mask mandates are, quote, disruptive to the essential element of the Catholic faith.
Well, all I'm saying is that Jesus, if he were in his grave, would have been rolling over in it.
God.
I know. Okay.
All right.
Sure. Now, in that regard, I have a lot of teachers in my family that range from kindergarten through college, and they would like to see everybody but the teacher at the head of the room masked, especially in the younger, not so much up above, but especially in the elementary grades, because the teacher's face is so vital. The mobility of the teacher's face is so vital to teaching, to disciplining and
communicating,
communicating, that if all the kids were masks and the teaching staff is vaccinated, they would like the right to unmask, or at least just use a clear shield, which they say is also not ideal. But at least because it really impacts their ability to communicate and to connect. And to me, that sounded like a really rational way to do.
But it's just a little too nuanced, because if the kids have to, then why does it's just like we just can't seem to do this wisely. I would
have the teacher masked until class starts. Then the mask comes down. The teacher explains why. So I want you to be able to see my face, and blah 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 blah. I don't know, but I'm so worried about our kids. I mean, I am just so terrified because viruses adapt, and this one has, and this one now is affecting our kids. And when you combine that with they're the rest of the fodder, we've got to protect our children. I'm really, I wasn't as frightened about them in the beginning as I am now. Now I'm scared.
Yeah. And you have reason to be. I was looking at a thread, what's called a thread of tweets by a pediatrician, a hospitalist pediatrician. In I forget where, somewhere in the South, where this is raging again. And she says we are seeing infants, children, and teens, and they're pouring back into the hospital more and more each day, ranging in age from 2 weeks to 17 years. COVID admissions in our medical center are up 500%. And currently 80% of our cases are due to the Delta variant. And she goes on talking about the fact that, we are endangering the children of this country by not getting vaccinated. Maybe people didn't care about, I know people said, when initially this happened, you're endangering your grandmothers, you're endangering the old people. And a lot of people, it flat out said, hey, old people are old, let them die. They got to die. I mean, big deal. I'm not going to, restrict myself because some 95-year-old is going to die. That's what 95-year-olds are supposed to do. Well, they won't have that argument now with children. And yet I suspect it won't make a damn bit of difference.
Nope. I mean, the one thing that I'm drawing comfort from is because I live, it was the case that everybody was fleeing the urban centers because they were, filled with disease. Chicago is basically vaccinated. If you sort of stay in your little community, you're within I sort of a herd immunity. Everybody's very careful, and it keeps it that way. But it helps to be in a place where over 80% of the people are vaccinated.
Yeah. Excuse me, wanting to quote from Michael Gerson in the Washington Post about these people who won't get vaccinated, and specifically dealing with children in school. And he says, we know that there is a very small but measurable risk that a child can have an adverse reaction to the vaccinations that are required that children have before they go to school, right?
Yeah, Leah had one.
My son had a terrifying one to the pertussis.
Yeah, Leah too. 105 fever, terrified.
Exactly what happened.
Hallucinating.
And,
awful.
Yeah, and man, so we didn't. The doctor said, "Well, we are not going to give the second dose of that. You just let that one go for him." And yet, what Gerson quite clearly says, what we all know, even though there is this risk of adverse reaction, we require childhood vaccinations because there is a far greater risk to children from rampant outbreaks of measles, mumps, rubella, pertussis, and diphtheria, right? So that's the risk-benefit ratio. Americans and these people who don't understand this, even though they've gotten vaccinated for these other things. It just makes me insane. He said, Republican public officials who bray about defending bodily integrity, while actual American bodies needlessly go to the morgue, have ceased to serve the public. Yeah. I think I am heartened somewhat by the number of employers who are
stepping up and doing the right thing.
Right. That's going to help.
I hate it when we're so excited when people just step up and do the right thing.
And today, this morning, I don't know if he has yet, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, is going to announce that in New York City, you ain't going to be able to go to a restaurant without having proof of vaccination. You are not going to be able to go to the gym or to any performances. And so now that's in New York. They're going to say, you don't just say I'm vaccinated, you prove it or you're not coming in.
Well, and to that end, I really think, none of this, stop with the paying people and trying to bribe them. Punish them when they don't. And that's the thing. But I don't think giving everybody a piece of cardboard that some nurse wrote a date on is a proper identification. I think your medical database now includes whether you are vaccinated. It should be easy to export the COVID vaccines to a central database. That we have one for a do not fly list. We can certainly have a database for the vaccinated Americans that is accessible. All you enter your name, you come up vaccinated, you can go in. or you have a thumbprint that shows that you're vaccinated, you can go in. I don't care how they do it. It's got to be something more than a cardboard. And then if you aren't, and you don't have, one of a list of provable excuses as to why not, in which case you still get to, you can't go to a grocery store, you can't go to a bank, you can't go to the theater, you can't go anywhere. You are basically quarantined, which is what you should be. And I don't have any problem with that. There are no federal regulations. I mean, people that keep saying HIPAA and you can't ask, that is bull. The P's in HIPAA don't stand for privacy. They're portable. They stand for portable and something else. It's about getting your insurance going from one place to another without, all of these things getting disturbed or people having the right to look. It just goes. That's what it's about. It's not about, you don't have any HIPAA protection vis-a-vis me and you. And if I say to you before I walk into your store, are you vaccinated or are you letting people in, and you say none of your business, I say bye.
Bye.
And that's what I'm saying to our bank that we do business with in a meeting that we're going to have with them.
That. Yeah, you told us this, Susan.
Okay, well, I'm just saying this. We as people have actual power.
Yeah.
And we should use it. Because the way that you make people make decisions, proper decisions about the good of the community, is to make it more uncomfortable for them not to do it than for them to do it. And so far, we haven't been doing that.
Correct. Aaron says happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I'm an old, nasty crow now, and I can own it.
No. And he says that our big grocery store here, Giant Eagle, has announced that they're returning to masking on Friday. I was just in there the other day, and I admit.
Oh, I thought you meant masking on Friday, like for the shop for Shabbos.
Like eating fish on Friday. They're returning on Fridays. You have to wear a mask. But no, starting Friday, if you go into the Giant Eagle, they want you to have a mask on again. That's good. And he says the comments section on the Post-Gazette site where he saw the article would make you think they were asking customers to walk on hot coals.
Oh, of course. How dare you?
Isn't that just amazing?
Yeah, I got to tell.
You just can't even imagine if people were asked to make an actual sacrifice or an extra effort. He says it's
right.
Really
how about no sugar, no gas, no cars, no, and coupons?
Yeah,
to trade to try and get some to buy to make a birthday cake for your beloved once a year. How about try that?
Jeez. What awful.
The other thing is my 3-year-old granddaughter has masked every day for the last year and a half and gone to school and done just fine, has to be reminded when she gets, back in her dad's car that she can drop her mask now. Doesn't bother her one little bit. So if a 3-year-old can do it.
Yeah, well, it's her reality.
Yeah, I don't care. If a 3-year-old can do it, it's obviously not something that a grown-up can't figure out.
Henry writes, it seems the number one excuse given by these anti-vaxxers is that the vaccine is not safe. And so many of them mention that the FDA has not sanctioned the vaccine. They've given it only an emergency use sanction. And that is a thing that, I do agree. I wish the FDA would just, cut a corner or something and do this, because that'll, I think, allow a million.
It would take away an excuse. And here's what I have to say to the FDA. If they can totally ignore the science and approve an Alzheimer's drug that had 4 people dropping off the board because it was against all the science, then they're sitting back and going, well, it's been too fast and we have to wait for all the studies and blah, 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 blah.
Exactly
it's pure hypocrisy and bullshit.
Exactly right. And I mentioned that the other day. This Alzheimer vaccine went by on an extraordinary fast track. It's not a vaccine, pill. And in fact, some of the higher ups at the FDA were saying, hey, no. It was like a unanimous vote. Slow this down. And somehow that thing got approved. You tell me there's not some kind of crime, some kind of bribe, some kind of chicanery afoot with that. So it turns out they can act quickly, precipitously. And knowing what their failure to act quickly with the with COVID vaccine is doing, you would think, you wonder, I know they're independent agencies that surely, like the White House and others, are like saying, hey.
Well, the problem with the other leg of the problem with this is that it causes even people that want to believe in governmental systems not to trust them. I mean, I know in the course of the last 4 years, I don't believe in the general efficacy of the FDA. I do not believe in the general efficacy of the FAA. I worry about the CDC. I worry, we have had reason to believe that they have been so tainted as to be actively working to kill population.
Yeah.
And that's not even an overstatement. That's just a reporting of what they have done in the last 5 years. So that, when someone like me, who actively wants to believe that the government in general is a force working on behalf of the greater good of the country, is having a hard time doing that, we all have a problem.
That's right. Because I realize if I were asked the question, do you have faith in, certain government, I'll tell you. No, it depends on who's running them. So that, did I have faith in the Environmental Protection Agency under Trump or any of his departments? No.
No, you knew that the person in charge of them was designed to undo any good that those positions had been designed to protect. Right.
Was against the mission of the very agency they were heading. And so, now I'm a little more assured because the Democrats have got some control here of the executive branch. But no, we all have become, understandably, because these things have been, the damage Donald Trump has done is mind-blowing. And there was a piece the other day how so many scientists quit or were fired under Trump's administration. Couldn't handle it anymore, couldn't take it because they were trying to do their work and they were being undermined or not allowed to. And so right now there was this huge brain drain during Trump's administration of all of these agencies. And those scientists
we were screaming about this. We were screaming about this at the time. That that it's very easy, and they did it at the academic, at all, fine universities and on state levels too. When you disappear the talent, you can't just blow a whistle and say "Ollie, Ollie, oxen, free."
Everybody back. No, they've got other jobs, and I'll tell you what else they're finding out is that scientists now are exactly as we are, not trusting that a government job will allow them to do their work. Maybe right now they'd happily go work in a Biden EPA, but what happens when the Republicans win another round? And so they're reluctant to even take these jobs.
Right. The government has to stabilize again before it's going to be what, when I was in college, in a lot of fields, a really good place to be looking. You know, if you were in law school, half the class would be looking for government service, and you know, between State Department and Justice Department and all of those other fields, those people, nope. Yeah, CIA, FBI, those are all things that you would go to law school for. You know, and I don't know.
So that's disquieting, because you know that one of the things that Biden wants to do is really go after the climate crisis. And he's got a problem implementing the things he wants to do, because he's got all these, there's unfilled positions, and they're almost all scientific. Anything that required expertise.
Well, and the problem is that the solution is going to be privatizing a lot of stuff that used to be governmental, and that has issues for national security.
Oh, yeah.
Even though, did you see NASA gets a D, and I forgot who got a C, and in their cyber security realms, they're just totally, basically unprotected.
Oh, God in heaven. I'm sure Trump had a lot to do with that, too.
Well, yeah, of course he did, because how is Russia going to get in?
Exactly. I mean, he had to leave the door open so his sponsors, the Russians, could get in. Absolutely.
You know, and this isn't conspiracy theory. This is just connecting the very large, bright orange cones that were left along the trail.
Yeah. Oi!
So what do you think the green spot on the back of Kim Jong-un's head is? Did you notice that? And why is it green?
No.
That's so weird. Well, you know how
Wait a minute. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there's been all of these, you see, there's news in the world, dear sister, there's news in the world.
Kim Jong-un has grown a green spot on the back of his head.
Yeah, about the size of a quarter, and with his signature haircut, he can't cover it. So in that shaved up portion of his version of
lovely
a fade,
coiffure.
Right? Yeah. His version of a fade, right? There is this inexplicably green spot. Now, I've had green tinges on a bruise, for example, but I've never had one that's sort of Kool-Aid-y kind of green, or a scale, or and it's not. And then later there's a bandage over it. And and he's had this big weight loss. So the theory is, then we go back to his grandfather, who before his death was seen to sport like a golf ball sized or tennis ball sized tumor in about the same location at the back of his head.
God.
So now they're thinking
people. So
I know. And his sister has been allowed to issue things under her own name. That would be like me, taking over your show or something. That would have meaning.
Yeah. I've seen that she's been out there making declarations, and I know there was concern about his losing weight, although he should lose weight.
I thought maybe someone finally put him on a proper diet.
Yeah, whatever. But geez, no, I haven't seen the green spot. That's great. Okay, Susan.
I was looking desperately for anything.
Well, that's credit. Good. Here is something that Kurt sent, which is so awful. But he, for some reason, thinks he sends it and he says, "I bet Susan will like this."
Okay, how awful is it?
It's pretty awful. It harkens back to one of the wonderful things the Europeanized white folks who who discovered this here country. Never mind that there were a whole bunch of other people already
living here.
Right.
But they didn't know where they were, so they couldn't have discovered it.
Right.
Never mind, these guys didn't know who they were, where they were either. Okay, go ahead. I interrupt.
And they. Yeah,
sorry. I apologize.
I know. You'll get it. I just want to get it in your head. Go ahead. Okay, wait a minute. Here's what he has said. Let's take the smallpox blanket lesson from history. And we all know what that is. I'm thinking that it was the army. The government handed out blankets to Native Americans, and they were
covered in smallpox virus, and we killed them.
They had no no immunity to at all, and it was smallpox. It just wiped out God knows how many people. So he says, let's take the smallpox blanket lesson from history and turn it on its head. Vaccine infused my pillows. See, Kurt, you're right. She likes it.
Like all those little squares of sponge just excrete viri, vaccine, sera, whatever is in there. Yeah, that's not awful. What's so awful about that? Oh, you just thought the reference to the blankets. Yeah, it is.
Well, because he's talking about killing. Let's target and kill, these idiot Trump supporters.
Well, no, wasn't he saying he's going to vaccinate them surreptitiously?
No. He's going to kill them.
Oh. Well, that's not nice.
Oh, no, that's not true. Oh, you're right. It's vaccine infused my pillows. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I actually listened to what you read.
Kurt, thought you were saying, let's kill them all. Oh.
We are kinder and gentler on our side.
I guess so. I apologize to you, Kurt. I apologize to Susan. And I need to, I'm the one who was thinking it was to kill him. Although I saw a cartoon today, a cartoonist who did. I think it was there's Republicans, an elephant looking at in a cemetery, and it's all these, they're voters, and the Republican is saying, now, what was the end game here again? Saying, what have we done? We're killing off our voters.
Duh.
Okay, now I have something that I wanted to. I had one other. Oh yeah, no, that's too depressing. Not going there. Not going there. I am not.
You know what's funny while you're looking for it? What's funny is watching our mother react to all the different colors of hair as it flashes by on television. So there's a congresswoman, and I can't think of her name. She normally sports dyed black hair, but it's frequently pink or blue or
it's
green.
It's not Sinema, because Sinema's always got some weird hair going. She's a senator.
Is she a senator? Well, maybe she's a senator.
Yeah.
Short, a bob that's in different colors.
Yeah, that's
and Mom's always screaming, "What is she doing?" And I explained to her, why is the unnatural black color of her hair any stranger than the quite pretty vivid blue that she's chosen for today?
Well, for people in an older generation, they're still trying to get used to people putting blue on their fingernails. Things were there was a much smaller palette of what was considered reasonable.
Yeah, well, I would suggest that old ladies have been dyeing their hair violet, blue, and pink for years.
Yeah, that's true. They have. What have they been thinking? I don't know. So
Okay, sorry. Did you find what you were looking for?
No, well, I've got stuff, and I'm just sort of reluctant. Let me just throw these two things in. I said just the other day that, decades ago, I came up with this, what I thought explained the human condition now, that, we're not very highly evolved from our ancestors who, were living in caves. We simply are not. Takes longer than that. And I've often said that all we are now is cavemen with smartphones. And yep. I came upon this is by a biologist who took that same thought but really made it better. So and he's so right. E.O. Wilson, he says, the real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And so these cavemen, these paleoliths, can't handle and are not swift enough, understandably, to deal with the swiftness of this technology, which is so far over our heads, it's a joke, nor can our institutions, which pretty much do come out of kind of a medieval mindset, right?
Right.
So we're in, I'm just telling you, we're in trouble right here in River City. Robert Reich, or Reich, how does he pronounce it?
Reich.
You think?
No, maybe not. Robert Reich.
I don't know.
Reich.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
He now writes a column for The Guardian, and boy, he's got a great one. And he talks about how this news that came out, what was it, yesterday or the day before? No, it was I think the weekend. That, in fact, the then president, one Donald Trump, when he was trying to rewrite the election, so this is at the end of December, he's lost the election, but he's still the president. And we know he was up to all kinds of stuff, pressuring the guys in Georgia to find him a few more votes, doing this. I mean, he was trying to overturn the election. And news comes, and I'm not sure why it came out, but he pressured the then Attorney General, the acting Attorney General. So after Barr finally said, I'm getting the hell out of here, and Barr left, this guy named Jeffrey Rosen became the acting Attorney General in the last months of Trump's reign. And Trump, there was three guys on the phone. Trump, Rosen, and another guy who worked at the Justice Department. I'm blanking, Donahue. He was Rosen's chief deputy. These two guys on the call. December 27th, and Trump says to the Attorney General acting of the United States, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me. And this was Donahue, the guy on the line, is taking contemporaneous notes, as these people have been
trained to do. Yeah.
And I have to say, right there, if this were normal times in our country, there is a smoking gun, there is evidence of an attempted coup d'etat. You say it's corrupt, leave the rest to me. And he said the Republican congressman, like Jim Jordan and the others. And then what is it we don't get? about the fact that Rosen didn't do that for him, but he didn't stop. He didn't stop. He then starts pressuring Georgia and pressuring legislators in Michigan and in Pennsylvania and finding some success. And his last gambit, the last thing, was January 6th. That was an attempt to stop the government.
Yeah, it was an attempt to overthrow the government.
It absolutely was. So we have all this evidence building. And what Reich is saying is that, dear God in heaven,
what does it take?
What does it take? He said it would have been bad enough were Trump a mere crackpot acting on his own pathetic stage, a would-be dictator who accidentally became president and then, when he lost re-election, went bonkers, after which he was swept into the dustbin of history. We might then merely regret this temporary lapse in American history. At best, Trump would be seen as a fool and the whole affair an embarrassment to the nation. But Trump was no accident, and he's not in any dustbin. He has turned one of America's two major parties into his own cult. And by all accounts, he is running for president again in 2024. He has emboldened Republicans throughout the country to execute the most brazen attack on voting rights since Jim Crow. And he says Donald Trump's proto-fascism poses the largest internal threat to American democracy since, obviously, the Civil War. And the fact that this revelation didn't break it. The news was still Simone Biles and the infrastructure bill. And he said the fact that this was known and became known, the attempt by the president to get the attorney general to say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me, he says clearly that should have trigger Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which bars anyone from holding office who engaged in insurrection against the United States. And he says Merrick Garland, the Attorney General now of the United States, should issue an advisory opinion clearly stating this.
I think so. I mean, if we're talking about having faith in the government of our country, then we also have to have faith that the people at the highest levels will be punished for their malfeasance. Otherwise, how can we have faith in the government? If you get to do what he did and walk away, there are no consequences. How do we have faith in the government? The country cannot go on without a full reckoning. This isn't like Benghazi. This is we got to fix the government now. It's so surely there are more rational people in the United States than just the two of us, right? I mean, surely. Why is this not happening?
I don't know.
I mean, if it's not, if they would just say we're working on it, I'd be happy.
Well, the thing is where the populace has proven itself to be not quite up to the where they need to be, not paying enough attention. And
I don't think that's fair, Lynn. I don't think it's fair to blame the government's inaction on the inability of the country to keep in the streets forever until they do their effing jobs. It shouldn't require that.
Here's the other thing. The pandemic.
Yeah.
The pandemic has exhausted and stressed people out. And so I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who say, I don't watch the news anymore. I don't read the news. I can't. And I understand that. But so they're missing that evidence is building and building, and you don't even have to be the whiz kid in the law class to see that the last president of the United States attempted a coup d'état, and that was an insurrection on January 6th, and you see them building to it even before the election. He was saying, if I lose, it's rigged, right? So he was setting the stage even before the election for this. He was never going to give up power. Never. And we had the first non-peaceful transfer of power in our country's history because of this. Right. People died. Did you see that now it's 4 police officers who have committed suicide?
Yes.
That were involved in.
Well, imagine what their social media, if they still have them, what these vile human beings are sending to these people. We heard about some of it during the hearings, but that's what they're driving people to kill themselves, and they're trying to. I would love to get hold of I would love to have, to examine some of these things as to whether they're actually suicide or whether they're murder through suicide. We've
that's the thing. You can't prove it.
Excuse me, we have tried, as far as I can think, in recent memory, 2 teenage girls for coercing their boyfriends to kill themselves. And they were murder charges. It's not unheard of.
Well, speaking of murder, I never got around to talking about this, but I was blown away. This has to be weeks old now, by an obit I had read, an obit I'd read about this guy who's now dead, but he died in prison. It's known that he killed 7
that guy,
women,
right.
But it's possible that he killed many, many others. And in the course of his killing spree, he was on a television show, The Dating Game.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of
that makes your heart skip a beat.
Yeah. 1978. He was one of the guys on The Dating Game. And this is, get this, 6 years after he was already convicted of rape and attempt to kill a 12-year-old girl. Will you please tell me how?
He was on. Oh, they didn't do their. That was in the days when they didn't do background checks.
I guess not. He was a good-looking guy. He appeared in a brown bell-bottom suit and a shirt with a butterfly collar as Bachelor number 1. And he was introduced to the audience as a successful photographer. Between takes, you might find him skydiving or motorcycling. And you know what? He won. The woman picked him. And you can dig up that episode, it's because he was very smooth and adept at sexual innuendo. And then get this, she never went on the date because in the conversation she had with him, trying to set up a date, she said she found him strange and disturbing.
Thank God for her instincts.
God Almighty. He was, I mean, he killed so many women, it's outrageous. And then even he was a camp counselor in New Hampshire after that.
God.
How? Anyway, I just have to say, the dating game killer. Wow. He was, at the time of his death, he was on California's death row. I don't think they...
Yeah, well, may he feel the insects eating his dead body.
Gee, Suze.
What?
I don't know.
I thought that was particularly... That was a good curse. What, do you think he doesn't deserve it?
No, but I just say it. Okay. What time is it?
I like a good curse. I'm sorry, you have 4 minutes to go.
Okay. So there was this piece. In...
we did an hour and a half effortlessly last night. What's your problem?
Well, I don't know. But we couldn't be talking about a lot of that stuff on this show, right?
Well, that's true.
That's true. I think it was more sort of personal. Okay. So David Brooks wrote this piece, and he says, I don't know what any of it means, but it's worrisome to him. And here's just a few. He says, he starts out with, just some numbers, and they're pretty upsetting. We know that in the last decades that major depression among kids has risen quite a bit. 63% in just the years between 2013 and 16. American suicide rates increased by 33% since 1999. The percentage of Americans who say they have no close friends has quadrupled since 1990. And this one, just 54% of Americans say that sometimes or always they feel that no one knows them very well. Well, yeah, I don't know. But the one that he started out with was at least 27% of Americans are estranged from a member of their immediate family. That's a big number.
That's a huge number. The 25% of over 25% of us aren't speaking to a member of our immediate family.
And most of these, he points out, that it's parents and children that are the estranged parties. And mostly it's the children who have said, that's it, I'm out of here, and don't speak to their parents. And it said that, the most recent study of this said that parents in the United States are twice as likely to be in an estranged or very contentious relationship with their adult children as parents in a whole ton of other countries, the ones that were big, England, Germany, Israel, Spain, and on and on and on. So more Americans. And you see, these things say something about us and about our...
Well, I'm immediately going to the polarized responses that we have and how we're taught in this country to hate everybody. So I would think, a ton of that is due to children rejecting parents who will not accept them for who they are. And they've just said, your presence in my life is so toxic that I can't go on, doing, and they've just gone on and lived their lives. I've seen it. I've also seen parents that have just said, and chosen, some schmo over their own kids.
I think it could be a lot of things. And he says he doesn't know. I mean, if you look at the when kids are the adult children are the ones, they point to things like harsh parenting or parental favoritism or divorce or hostility and blah, blah, blah. And there's one quote from a woman says, I have someone out to get me, and it's my mother. My part of being a good mom has been getting my son away from my mother. I'm not sure that all of this is not also kids' refusal to see their parents as humans and blaming them for whatever unhappiness they have. Is that possible too?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we were talking about last night, and it was because of that video. And we were talking about how important the relationship of aunt is to, or aunt, depending on how you say it, is to nieces and nephews. That in many ways, that you're able to be the good mother that for whatever reason their actual mother is not capable of being for them in that moment. And it has nothing to do with the actual mother. It has to do with it has to be someone else, because my kids had me as a mother, and I have nieces and nephews that clearly hold me in higher esteem.
Because you were not, because
they didn't live with me every day, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And here's another thing that one person who's really looking into this says, and she says, my most recent research and my clinical work over the past 4 decades has shown that you can be the most conscientious parent and your kid may still want nothing to do with you when they're older.
That's right. Freud wasn't wrong.
That's tough, though, for the parent. That is tough.
It's very tough, and there's not a thing you can do but just swallow it and accept it. But it's not unusual. It's not necessarily fair. It's why there's a lot of moms and probably dads, but I can only report from motherhood, that just couldn't wait for her children to have children.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a whole lot to do with my wanting to have grandchildren. It was so that they understood
payback.
Yeah, well, not even payback, but just so they understood how it looks from the other side. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I just want to put one other little fact in here, and then we gotta go, because I found this interesting. We have all these involved high pressure parents, completely controlling their kids' schedules and all this shit that goes on now that makes me crazy. And a recent study found that almost 3/4 of parents of school-age children want eventually to become their children's best friend. I think that's fucked up.
Yeah. That's not the job.
You're their mother or their father. You're not their best friend. Your job is to make them whole and capable and let them go.
It's a fundamentally different relationship. And even if you are friendly and you hang out and you're calling that friendship, it is still a fundamentally different relationship that should be treasured and allowed to be what it is.
But you shouldn't be their best friend. Sorry.
No, and you should limit it.
For the children, it says, a lot of adult children seem to think they need to cut off their parents just to have their own life. Because parents don't know when their job's done. Oy. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm just here to say that I have children that tell me that my job is done.
I have a child that in no uncertain terms has told me my job is done. That is correct.
That is, except when they tell me that they would like my advice, which is fine. Yes, what?
Which is fine. Exactly. All right, Suze. Hey, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Your voice is sounding better. You sound like you've come to life. You may now continue with your day.
Okay. In other words, you're telling me to go ahead? Is that what you're saying?
I specifically did not say that, but it was lurking somewhere in my brain.
I know. Well, Susan's told me to go ahead, so I'll go ahead. And Suze, thanks. Bye. Bye. Okay, you guys, I'll see you yins tomorrow. Okay? Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.